JG Francoeur, we're live. Interest rate cuts, real estate still going on. We're talking about Peterborough specifically, but we'll talk about a bunch of stuff today. 50 basis points, dude.
It's huge. I mean, I think this is big. I mean, I don't know. You're the king of nothing burger. That's your thing, right? Is like, oh, this is a nothing burger. So I kind of thought, like, I was wondering, is Patrick gonna think that's a nothing burger? I don't know. We'll see. But for me, this is a big deal. I think this is a very big deal.
If you're an investor with a portfolio like we are, and with some variable rate mortgages like we have, this is good news. And certainly I'm not going to complain about it from that aspect of it. I look at it overarching, just economically. What does it mean? And of course, you know how activated I get when I see Freeland and Trudeau and all of the rest of the NDP liberals going, look at us go. This is so awesome. I'm going, okay, do you guys know why they're lowering rates? It might have a different connotation. It's not all good news. Anyways, it'll take some much needed relief for many, but ultimately it does shine a light on the fact that economically things are not great. So having said all of that, what's happening right now in the real estate world is still good news for real estate investors. And there's lots of good news out there in that regard if you're an investor who's staying on top of what's going on in the world. And we're here to talk about what's going on in the Peterborough world.
Well, listen, we're going to talk coach homes today. But I had a meeting like just the other day with a real estate investor and a relatively new investor at that. And they were just embarking on the next phase of their journey. And they were just like many of us, Patrick, just like you, just like me, just like the great majority of real estate investors, they were using lines of credits, HELOCs. This is how we are able to get into real estate, is by using HELOCs. And, when interest rates come down like they have, we're now down a full basis point since like July, like a full 100 basis points.
This takes us to what, 3.45, I think? Is that
3.5, I think. No, 3.75. 3.75.
Okay.
3.75. But the point is that this has an impact not just on variable rates, but also has an impact on HELOCs, and that's a big deal for us real estate investors, because that's what we use to renovate our investments. That's what we use to build coach homes. That's what we use to build secondary suites. That's what we use to leverage into the next property. So this is very, very good. And what I've been telling a lot of real estate investors, and as you know, Patrick, as a sophisticated investor yourself, it's like, you want to look at the real estate market before it gets crazy again. And that's where it's going to go. It's going to get crazy again. Is it in the next 6 months, 12 months, 18 months? I'm not even going to try to tell you when it's going to get crazy again, but it will. It's heading in that direction, and it's the time now to get in. But it's tough to get in when the interest rates are so high on these HELOCs, as an example. This makes it more palatable for people. And the most important thing is confidence will follow, and that's what really the real estate market is missing, is confidence. That's why, the investors that are out there in the market right now are really crushing it, because they don't need the market to give them confidence. They have their own confidence, so to speak. But the fact is the majority of people need like a little bit of love here. They need a little bit of confidence. And this double rate cut definitely goes a long way in doing that.
It'll be helpful for sure. I mean, at the end of the day, market sentiment is really important. Real estate is emotional. I think there's a couple things that, I don't expect it to have a huge impact per se on real estate from an investment point of view. I think it will definitely be better. The fundamentals are still out of whack economically. So that does present opportunities. So this is all to say that when you look at rates coming down, especially in the variable rate where you have access to less expensive capital, that opens up the door for you to, in this conversation, talk about ADUs, talk about coach homes, talk about the ability to expand on where you can get revenue on rental units, which has been pretty tough to do given the cost of money. And, how do you actually add those suites to existing properties that you might own to expand on, like a coach home, like we're going to talk about. But yeah, I think ultimately it is also going to be very more sensitive to property type. Single family is, and I keep qualifying single family as multiple units. It has to have an ADU. We don't talk single family in terms of a bungalow that you buy, but there's just not enough of those out there. And so this opportunity to build coach homes, to find single families, build coach homes, have the ADUs. I mean, this opens up a new door given interest rates coming down. So that side of it specifically is positive.
Yeah, well, you know, the real, and I'm getting this, I mean, the phone is ringing more and more and more every day. And people are asking me questions like, hey, JG, the fact that interest rates are down, does this make coach homes more feasible? And the answer is absolutely, because what, you know, in a big way, like 1% from July to today, we are 1% lower on interest rates than we were. And that makes a big difference, Patrick. And not only that is, the variable rates are coming down. Even fixed rates have come down. Like I'm hearing real estate investors getting mortgages for 4.6, 4.5, 4.79, 4.75. Yeah. That's a hell of a lot better than 6.5%, 6, 7%, 7.5%. I mean, it's a big difference. So, you know, there's investors that are really jumping on board here and starting to see the forest through the trees, so to speak. And I know we're feeling the activity in a big way in the markets we operate in at Visture Property Group.
Well, I think there's a couple things, right? You know, you guys are in the trenches every day. You're seeing the opportunities. I think that, you know, the coach home is an old story, but it's still an early adoption story. So in other words, coach home stories have been kind of percolating, and a few people talk about it. It's an old story, but nobody was taking action on it. And this is where the opportunity lives, to actually be an early adopter of that and see the opportunity. Because what isn't changing is the fact that we are undersupplied given the immigration into this country. And as much as they're kind of touching the brake on immigration, we are so far behind in terms of supply that, you know, having a decent coach home, you're going to attract a better quality tenant, and you are in fact going to get maximum rents for those properties. And as much as the rental market, you know, you're hearing a little bit of stories, things are softening and coming off a little bit. So are the costs of carrying that property. So there's still that balance there. And this is just a breath that the market is taking. I think rental rates will continue to rise again. You'll see it drop in the condo market because there's so much supply. But let's go back to what we hit on. We're not talking condos. I'm not interested in talking about condos. We are talking about single family, ADU, coach homes, etc., and the opportunity that exists in there.
Well, I'm pumped about this for several reasons, Patrick. One of them is because I've been calling for a double rate cut for months now, and it finally happened. So I feel like my JG prediction came true, which is fantastic. But you're right. You know, coach homes are an old story that are really, you know, coach homes have been around a long time. Laneway houses have been around a long time, but they're getting, and I got to say, it's the legislation Doug Ford did. I said it back then. I'm saying it again. It has made a huge difference. And even though some people, and you were not one of them, Patrick, you were definitely not one of them, but some people were saying, oh, it's a nothing burger, it's not going to make a difference. I'm telling you, it has cut down development costs of these coach homes by $20,000 to $30,000 per unit. And that's huge. That's a big discount, man. You know, and there's several other things they should do to make it even better and better. But I think we are, and we are in the coach home adoption cycle today, where we were in the secondary suite adoption cycle in 2011, 2012. When I started doing secondary suites in 2011, 2012, nobody had heard of it. The finance companies weren't quite sure about it. The appraisals were, not 100% there all of the time. There was definitely, you were at the beginning of the cycle. But I tell you, some of the moves I made back then, and that's now 14 years ago, the moves I made back then appear today like absolute brilliance. Like, oh my God, that was the best thing I ever did, right? Yeah. That's where we are right now with coach homes. The move you make today with coach homes, in 14 years from now, you're going to be like an absolute genius, Patrick.
So when you look at what's going on with the coach home in the coach home world, like let's back up a little bit. So let's say you buy a single family traditional bungalow and you say, okay, well, I'm going to blow up the basement suite and I'm going to renovate. I'm going to put a suite in it. Yes, do that. But when you think about if you're buying a unit that has a basement suite in it and you go, okay, well, now what can I do? it shifts how you're looking and assessing real estate, right? Because you're now looking at, okay, though this is a duplex, and look at my lot, I can add a coach home to this, and all of a sudden the whole revenue model shifts and changes for the positive, and you're now focused more on lot style and what you can do in the future, and it really does open up a bigger opportunity, is how I'm looking at it.
Well, I'll give you a little J genius right here, because you just poked at something very interesting. So in 2011, 2012, you could buy a single family with a basement, a side entrance, with kind of the side splits. Those were the same price as any other single family. They were not trading for a premium. They were the same. Now today, try to go buy a raised bungalow with a side entrance and a front entrance. You're going to pay a 20 to 30% premium on that, because they know you can put in a secondary suite that much easier. Yeah. That's how it's going to be with a lot of properties. And I took a look, Patrick, today. In fact, I'm going on a buying spree. I haven't told anybody publicly, but I'm going to go on a buying spree here in the next 12 months, because people don't know what they're sitting on. And they have these incredible properties with huge lots. And I know that in 2-3 years from now, when the coach home market blows up, these properties are going to trade at 20, 30, 40% premium to what they're trading, not today, but 20 to 30 to 40% premium compared to where they are at the market at that particular time. Like, there's going to be a trade premium. You can capitalize on that today. That is all lift for us as investors, but you got to be willing to get in now.
There's a couple things that I think we need to shine a light on, and we have to say, okay, well, why coach homes, blah, blah, blah. And we look at the math and we say, okay, the math works better and you have the opportunity to cash flow. But we also have to look at and say, okay, when you consider your tenant profile, when you look at somebody who can now live in a coach home, they can have the space that they need. They're not in a basement suite. Not that basement suites are bad, but let's say historically you look at a 700 square foot or 800 square foot basement suite, just as an example. Is the lighting as good? You got to go upstairs and to go outside. A coach home puts you in a position where you got more light, you're on ground level, you walk out your door and you're in a backyard of some sort, whatever arrangements are made. I mean, there's a lot of advantages, and it is more appealing in my world to have a coach home, have a tenant that is attracted to a coach home. I think you're getting a better tenant profile. That's what I believe anyways.
Oh, well, 100%. You're going to get, a professional couple. You're going to get a professional family. You're going to get you're going to get people who want a single family home, not an apartment. And that's definitely a layer or two above on the premium side of things. There's no doubt about it. Now, I want to piggyback on that one more thing, because what's happening today is homeowners, and this is just starting to rumble, Patrick, but homeowners have not yet realized the potential of coach homes. But let me tell you, unlike secondary suites, because a secondary suite, no homeowner wants an apartment in their house. That's how they view it, okay? I'm not saying that's right, but that's how the homeowner views it. Sure. But a homeowner will see a coach home completely different, because that's in the backyard and that's all the way over there. So there's going to be a homeowner trade premium on these coach home properties in the future, big time.
Well, that's the self-funding house, philosophy, really. When you look at a housing hack, I mean, if you got to buy a house and you're going to say, I'm going to live in this home, well, all of a sudden, oh, look at that. I can offset my mortgage cost because I can add rent to this particular unit. I mean, it's a win-win right across the board, and a great investment over the long term.
One of the services we offer at Visture Property, when we started doing this, because the phone is just ringing off the hook with people interested in finding out how to do this and how it works. So a service that we offer, it's called a site planning consultation, where we look at people's portfolios, and whether they only have one property or whether they have 10 properties or 100, it doesn't matter. We look at it, we say, listen, which of your properties are best suited for a coach home, and what is the future value of that income property, And we are seeing, Patrick, properties today that investors are currently worth $550,000, $600,000, $650,000 in 10 years' time. Not only do they increase dramatically in cash flow positive, because they command such a good rent premium. So not only going to make more money every single month from now until 10 years, but in 10 years, those properties, we're looking at pegging those values at about 1.9 million, 1.95 million. And people are saying, how is that possible? But Patrick, 10 years ago, there's no way people thought that a property with a secondary suite would sell for $1 million, but they do all of the time. Now, I'm not talking Toronto prices here. I'm talking Peterborough, I'm talking Barrie, I'm talking Orillia, I'm talking the markets that everyone operates in. So it's a big deal. You got to get ahead of this wave, but you got to have the foresight and you got to be willing to put in the work.
You do. And part of the work is, let's talk about what you're doing in terms of putting the work in, is getting the education. You're supporting that initiative and supporting people who are interested in Coach Home and learning about Coach Home. You're doing a tour in Peterborough. What are you doing? You're going to show Coach Homes how to do it, how to make it happen. What are you doing?
We're doing investor tours, and I'll tell you this, Patrick. The reason we're doing this is very simple. And these investor tours are quick, right? It takes an hour and a half, 2 hours. It's not a long, drawn-out thing. And we go to a Coach Home, and I show people this Coach Home, and you get to walk through it, and I share with you the numbers, and I share with you how it works, and I share with you the process. But the most impactful thing that's happened here, Patrick, since I started these a couple months ago, is people now have a visual and they have a frame of reference for what this actually looks like. Because yeah, as much as people say, oh yeah, I get it, a Coach Home, they have a really hard time picturing, how do I fit a house in a backyard exactly? Like, how does that work? So, and the other thing is, people think, oh, it's a tiny home. It's a little 200 square foot tiny home. No. This is a beautiful full scale house. It's a 2-bedroom or a 3-bedroom house. And so I found that people have no frame of reference, and they also have a very hard time visualizing them. As a result, these investor tours are a huge hit. And we keep them small, 10, 15, 20 people at very most. And that's great. So every single one typically has been, completely sold out, so to speak. They're free. We don't charge anything. We just want to show people the potential here. And people get to sign up, and we've included a link somewhere on this page. People can go check it out. October 30th is the next one, 4 to 6 p.m. And it's going to be awesome.
Well, the thing is and certainly for the REIN community, those who know you and know of you and have heard you speak and do it, this is you in the trenches. Go see how JG gets his hands dirty, working what he teaches. It's not just concept. He's not a theorist. He's actually in the trenches building these things and getting stuff done. And it's an opportunity for you to learn. I think there's a fundamental that JG, you and I have taught this stuff and coached this stuff for so many years now, which is, when we look at what's happening with real estate, our job is to get in front of the wave, not to chase the wave. And what is going to happen is this whole Coach Home concept is going to grow legs and momentum, and you're going to be chasing the wave. The time is now to get the education, get the insights, see the opportunities, maybe engage in, start to look at what you would do yourself for Coach Homes and take advantage of this opportunity, because it's a free event. You're doing your thing, you're doing tours, and it's an opportunity for investors who understand the concept, at least to get a visual, to touch it, feel it, and see what's going on.
And there's no better time, Patrick. And the reason for that is because, again, in 1 year, in 2 years, in 3 years, the premium on these Coach Homes, and I'll show, when people come to the tour, I show them graphs, and I show them how the trade premium on these is going to continue to accelerate. In 2011, the trade premium on a secondary suite compared to a single family home was essentially 8%, 9%. That trade premium today is almost 30%, Patrick. That's how much accelerated in the last 10 years. That's going to happen to Coach Homes. So, is the concept going to work in 2 years? Yeah, for sure. Is the concept going to work in 5 years? Yes, for sure. But it's going to be more expensive. And a lot of people are often just like you, just like me, Patrick. When we started real estate, we didn't have anything. I mean, I needed a vendor take back mortgage to do my first deal. I didn't have enough money for my first deal. So people need to find the concept, and people want to find the opportunity where it's cheaper to get in, the opportunity where there's more upside than the other stuff. This is that right now, but it won't last forever.
Beautiful. Well, listen, folks, look at the link below and you will in fact see where you can register. A couple hours of your time to get educated, to gain the insights, and take advantage of the opportunity to talk to boots on the ground, people who know what they're talking about. JG, anything you want to leave us with?
No, I want people to sign up. If this one is full by the time you go to sign up, and that's very well possible. If it is, don't worry, we will run others. This one is especially exciting, Patrick, because at the time we run it on October 30th, we're going to have a coach home that's going to be essentially beyond the drywall stage. So people are going to be able to feel it, touch it, see it. And like the last time I did one of these, which was just like 6 weeks ago, it was just a hole in the ground. So well, people have a hard time visualizing a hole in the ground, but right now people can actually see the finished product or just about the finished product. So it's a great time.
Fantastic. JG, thanks for doing this, and thanks for putting this out there. REIN community, listen, this is an opportunity for you to connect with each other as well as JG. Look at these projects, see what's going on. Thanks for your time, JG.
See you there.